On Saturday night, 60,000 people packed Nissan Stadium in Nashville to watch Alan Jackson, a future Country Music Hall of Fame inductee and one of the greatest traditional country music singers who ever lived, say goodbye. A man Nashville never believed in, walking off the stage one last time. George Strait walked out and sang with him. Carrie Underwood said he was the very first concert she'd ever seen. Luke Combs said it was almost impossible to pick a favorite. And here's the part nobody said out loud that night. Almost every song they sang to honor Alan Jackson was a song the Nashville machine once doubted, dismissed, or flat out bet against. They signed him as an afterthought. To his face, the industry called him Merle Haggard on milk. And one by one, for 35 years, he proved every last one of them wrong. This is the story of 10 times Nashville bet against Alan Jackson and lost. 10 songs and moments the executives, the radio programmers, and the award show producers were sure would never work. By the time we get to number 2, you'll hear about the song they refused to even release as a single, the one that still rewrote the record books anyway. And at number 1, the song they'd already given away to another singer before it became the record that built his entire career. Ranked from the quiet misjudgments all the way up to the single biggest miss in modern country music history. If you loved the era when traditional country music still sounded like traditional country music, fiddle and steel guitar and no apology for any of it, hit that subscribe button. Every week we put the real history of this music back where it belongs, with the people who actually lived it. Now, let's get into it. Number 10. Blueblooded Woman. The debut single almost everyone has forgotten, and Nashville wanted you to forget it too. In late 1989, Arista handed Alan Jackson his first shot at country radio, and the song stalled out at number 45. It never cracked the top 40. To the people watching the charts, that was the whole story right there. A lanky, soft-spoken kid from Noonan, Georgia, a small town about 40 miles southwest of Atlanta, who didn't have it. First impressions in this town are everything, and his first impression was a flop. The label had just opened its country division, and their inaugural artist had laid an egg. But Jackson and his team didn't panic, and they didn't chase a trend. They put out the next song exactly the way they believed in it. And that next song changed everything. The misfire at number 45 became a footnote, the kind of footnote that only exists because of everything that came after it. Number 9. Don't Rock the Jukebox. By 1991, the smart money in Nashville was on polish. Bigger productions, smoother edges, one eye always on the pop charts. And Alan Jackson released a song that was, on purpose, a hard turn in the opposite direction. It was a plea to keep the old sound alive, built around a fiddle and a steel guitar. And he put George Jones, the patron saint of traditional country music, a man who'd stood on the Grand Ole Opry stage for decades, right there in the video, as if to say exactly whose side he was on. Plenty of people thought that was a backward move, doubling down on honky-tonk while the genre was sprinting toward the mainstream. It went straight to number 1. It became one of the defining songs of his catalog. The bet was that traditional country music was on the way out. That bet was wrong. Number 8. The album of covers nobody wanted him to make. In 1999, with a rock and pop tinged sound dominating country radio, Jackson did something that looked, on paper, like commercial self-sabotage. He recorded an entire album of old country classics, other people's songs, the traditional country sound, no concession at all to where radio was heading. The industry logic was simple. You don't spend a peak career year putting out covers of songs from a sound the format has supposedly moved past. It was a double risk, and the suits saw downside everywhere. The fans saw something else entirely. They saw an artist who refused to apologize for loving the music that raised him, and they rewarded him for it. Number 7. Gone Country. Here's the audacious part most people miss. At the absolute height of the 90s country gold rush, when labels were signing anything in a cowboy hat and the money was pouring in, Alan Jackson released a song that quietly mocked the entire stampede. It's about people from every other corner of the music business suddenly going country because that's where the cash was. He was biting the hand of the very boom that was feeding everyone in town, including him. A safer artist plays along and keeps his mouth shut. Jackson turned the bandwagon into a #1 hit and made the joke land so well that half the people singing along were the exact people he was singing about. Number 6. The Night He Walked Out for George Jones. This one isn't a song, it's a moment the producers never wanted. At the 1999 CMA Awards, George Jones, one of the greatest voices this genre ever produced, a Grand Ole Opry legend, was asked to trim his performance down to 90 seconds. 90 seconds for a living legend. Jones refused and stayed home in protest. So during the broadcast, in the middle of his own performance slot, on country music's biggest night, on live television, Alan Jackson stopped his own song and broke into Jones's choices instead. It was a quiet act of war, and he did it without flinching. The establishment wanted a tidy, on-time broadcast. Jackson handed them a statement they couldn't edit out. If you're starting to see the pattern here, if you're realizing that nearly every defining moment of this man's career came from him refusing to do what Nashville wanted, do me a favor and hit that like button. It genuinely helps this video reach more people who remember when country had a backbone. And if you haven't subscribed yet, come join us. We're putting this history back in the hands of the people who lived it. Number 5. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. On paper, this shouldn't have worked. Take a neo-traditional country purist, pair him with Jimmy Buffett, a beach music, margarita and flip-flops act with no real country radio footprint, and release the duet as a single. Country radio and the Parrot Head crowd were two different planets, and the conventional wisdom said it was a novelty at best. Instead, it became a juggernaut, parked itself at the top of the chart, and turned into one of the most recognizable songs either man ever recorded. The unlikely pairing the format couldn't picture became the soundtrack to an entire summer. Number 4. Chattahoochee. A goofy, up-tempo song about growing up beside a river in Georgia, about learning a little about living and a little about love on a muddy riverbank not far from Noonan. It's not the kind of song that screams career record. It sounds like a throwaway, a bit of fun between the bigger statements. And it became one of the most beloved, most defining songs Alan Jackson ever made. The one the crowd still loses its mind over. The one that won the industry's own top honors at the very award shows that had underestimated him. The lesson Nashville kept failing to learn. The songs that sound the simplest coming from this man were always the ones that lodged deepest in people's hearts. Number 3. Where Were You? When the World Stopped Turning. A few weeks after September 11th, Jackson had written something raw and uncertain. A quiet ballad that openly admitted he wasn't a political man, that he couldn't tell you the difference between Iraq and Iran. There was every reason to think it was too personal, too plain, too fragile for the moment. Nobody saw it coming. He performed it at the 2001 CMA Awards and stunned the entire room into silence. It went on to earn him a record-tying 10 CMA nominations the following year and a Grammy nomination for Song of the Year. The most unguarded song of his life became the one that spoke for an entire country when nothing else could. Number 2. Murder on Music Row. This is the one the machine bet against hardest, because the song is literally an accusation aimed at the machine itself. Jackson and George Strait recorded a duet in the year 2000 that flatly accused Nashville of murdering traditional country music for money, killing the fiddle, killing the steel guitar, trading the honky-tonk for a Hollywood smile. Two of the biggest names in the genre, pointing the finger directly at the industry that paid them. The label never even released it as an official single, and it climbed the country chart anyway, becoming the highest charting non-seasonal album cut of its entire era, beating a record that had belonged to Garth Brooks. A song they refused to push, attacking the very town it came out of, outperformed songs with millions of dollars behind them. And on Saturday night, of all the songs in his catalog, that's the one Jackson and Strait chose to sing together one final time. The crowd went wild. Strait pointed at him and called him a legend. The protest song they tried to bury became a farewell anthem. Number 1. The signing they didn't believe in, and the song they gave away. Here's how it really started. When Arista opened its country division, Alan Jackson, a kid from Noonan, Georgia with no Grand Ole Opry connections, no industry pedigree, and no real leverage, became the very first artist they signed on June 26, 1989. And in his own words, the label didn't expect a thing from him. He said it plainly. He thought they signed him mostly so the company's founder could claim he was serious about country music. He was, as he put it, a fluke. They nicknamed him Merle Haggard on Milk. Not edgy enough, not rough enough, not the real thing in their eyes. And then there's the title song. Here in the Real World wasn't even supposed to be on his debut album. It had already been handed off to another singer entirely. The only reason it made the record was because a label executive went digging through the leftover songs that didn't make the cut, heard the demo, and insisted on putting it back in. The song they'd given away became his breakout, the cornerstone of a catalog that went on to sell over 75 million records and produce 35 number ones. The artist they signed as an afterthought walked off that stage on Saturday as one of the most successful traditional country music singers who ever lived, and a Country Music Hall of Fame inductee that Nashville once dismissed as a fluke. Every single person who bet against him on day one lost. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, you understand something most people scrolling past Alan Jackson's name never will. Nashville didn't build Alan Jackson. Nashville bet against Alan Jackson at the signing table, on the radio, on the awards stage, and it lost that bet every single time. He did it by refusing, again and again, to be anything other than exactly what he was. Smash that like button if this changed how you think about the quiet man in the white hat. And drop a comment telling me which one surprised you most. Are you team Where Were You, the song nobody saw coming? Team Murder on Music Row, the protest they tried to bury? Or team Don't Rock the Jukebox, the line in the sand that started it all? I read every single comment. And if you haven't subscribed to the Country Cut yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and ring that bell so you never miss a story, because we are keeping the real history of traditional country music alive, one song at a time. I'd love to have you on this journey with us, because sometimes the man they bet against isn't chasing the spotlight. Sometimes he's the one in the plain white hat, standing exactly where he always stood while everyone who doubted him quietly disappears.